The clock is banging. Just take a look at some of these headlines. The New York Times says our oceans could feel like jacuzzis.
And the Washington Post piling on climate change came for Maui. The rest of us are next.
Steve Milloy is the founder of junkscience.com and a member of the Trump EPA transition team. And he joins us now. Steve, good to see you. So, listen, the media is losing their mind over climate change, taking what I would argue are things that normally happen in the summer. It gets hot, and they're saying climate change is upon us. How would you respond to all these crazy headlines and stories?
Well, look, it's been an unusual summer. There's no question about that. The central question, though, is, are emissions driving this? And there's simply no evidence of that. You know, we are told that every emission warms the planet and this causes climate change. Over the last 8 years, there's been no global warming, despite 500 billion tons of emissions. How could that possibly be? We look at an event like Maui. Maui is not climate change. Maui is a failure of government. The government knew the grasses on Maui were dry. They knew the wind was coming. They knew that wildfires are a possibility. They did nothing. Did they warn anyone when the fire started? No. And then when the firefighters got there, there was no fire, there's no water in the fire hydrants. This is a failure of government, not climate change. And this is typical of all these events.
Matthew Wielicki is on the show as well. And there, so many people reporting that July was the hottest month that humans have experienced. But if you look into the research, the original UN report said that the Western Europe, China, and Japan were a few degrees warmer in July during the mid-Holocene than in recent decades. So if we've only warmed 0.5 degrees since then, how is today warmer if it was a few degrees warmer during the mid-Holocene era? On that note, not only has there been relentless zealotry infiltrated the legacy media, but now they're trying to force it into public schools through state legislators. So are they going to teach that, Sean Duffy? Keep talking.
Not to my kids, because in New Jersey, where I now live, I'm a Wisconsin guy, but also in Connecticut, they've already done it. And now a new bill introduced where else but California would require schools to, quote, emphasize the causes and effects of climate change as soon as possible. New York, they also might jump into the game and have similar legislation. So, Steve, I don't know what the left is trying to do here. Are they trying to create fear or anxiety with our kids? Or are they just trying to create, little, climate movement activists that are going to get out of the schools and come and advocate legislatures to accomplish goals by and from the left?
Yeah, so look, I just look at this as ideological child abuse. Ever since Al Gore's movie Inconvenient Truth, leftists have been in schools trying to scare children. It's causing anxiety. Some of them need to see a psychiatrist. Yeah. It's causing adults to be crazy. Last year, a guy committed suicide on the steps of the Supreme Court over climate. As to what Dagen was saying earlier about July, July is always the hottest month of the year. And, of course, July this year was the warmest July on the satellite record, which only goes back to 1979. These claims of it being the hottest month in the 174 years or 125,000 years, this is just crackpot science. It's not real.
Right. Are they going to teach that this is all manufactured? If they're going to force this to be taught in schools, that the UN framework, which we talked about a couple of days ago, of climate change, was before any hint of warming, that there had been decades of cooling, that this was to target fossil fuel companies because all these left-wing nuts in power, they just want more power. And so this was manufactured.
Right. This has always been about control. Margaret Thatcher, of all people, played a huge role in getting climate alarmism started because she wanted to break the power of the British coal unions and promote nuclear power. This has always been political. And when the Berlin Wall came down, all the left-wing activists piled on because climate is the best way to get control of the global economy. And that's what we're watching happen right now.
And you can't measure it. Really? Steve Milloy.
No, you can't measure it.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Junk Science.
Never forget, fear equals control and control equals power. They did it to us during COVID, and they keep doing it to us with climate change.
Only if we allow it.
Coming up, you know the crime and squalor in San Francisco has gotten bad when they've turned